The Gopher Coaches Show is presented by Window Concepts and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. Now, it's the Gopher Coaches Show with Dawn Plitzerwhite and Ben Johnson.
Welcome in to the Gopher Coaches Show. I'm Ahmad Hicks alongside K-Fans Justin Gard and men's Gophers basketball coach Ben Johnson. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Good to see you too.
Haven't had breakfast. Gonna get ready for lunch here coming up soon, though, I'm sure.
We're working on it. All
right, Coach. The last time we did this show, you guys were off to a 12-3 start. Conference play has started since then. A bit of a rough patch for you guys. So I want to go back and I want to talk about that Indiana game. They pounced on you guys early. What do you take away from a moment like that, and how is that a learning lesson for your team?
Well, I think anytime you go on the road, it's obviously going to be tough, and you can't have those self-inflicted errors early to trying to flip momentum. And so I think we learned that obviously on the road your details got to be really tight. You got to be a connected group from start to finish. And I think that impacted and really helped us the games after. So it was a learning experience, one of those things where guys kind of had to go through it, and we'll learn and grow from it.
Iowa was almost the opposite, where you started outstanding, right? They had to call a quick timeout. You got a couple of quick turnovers, but kind of from that midpoint of the first half, it was, the Hawkeyes kind of taking control of some things. So what did you learn from that game moving forward?
Yeah, I think, early we got to a great start, and I think it was a little bit more of their tempo than our tempo. Kind of got caught up in it a little bit, and we weren't able to get that momentum back after we lost it. So from that standpoint, we just got to understand more a little bit about who we are, right, and stay true to who we are.
I still feel like late in that game, though, I'm watching that you guys had a chance. So what's your message to the team in the huddle about, I guess, late game collapses in situations like that?
No, we did have a chance. We put ourselves in position, and obviously in late game everything gets heightened. You can't have those defensive errors. We had a couple of missed box outs, which you can't have. Got to be able to execute on the offensive end. And so you want to stay positive, you want to stay aggressive, but you got to be detail-oriented.
All right, now talking about that next game, Michigan State, you guys entered that with a 2-game losing streak. Unfortunately, you couldn't snap it, so it's now three games you lost in a row. But still in that one, you got down late, had a chance to win. So how frustrating is that for a coach from your point of view, knowing these are games that are winnable?
No, I think the guys did a great job, a little bit undermanned and battled foul issues kind of all night. I thought the guys did a good job of, sticking with it, showing mental and physical toughness. Anytime you can be on the road against a really good team, with under 4 minutes to go and have it be tied or a one-possession game, it gives you an opportunity to win. And so I think, again, if we can bottle that up and learn from Michigan State, which is how our approach was mentally, that'll definitely help us down the line.
Yeah, part of the underman, obviously, was Elijah Hawkins didn't play, and Pharrell Payne has been limited here for a while. We talked about it a lot on the radio show, and even going back to the non-conference, you were trying to ease him back into some things. So how difficult has it been, first for him, and then for you guys as a team to try to get him as much as you possibly can, all knowing that some of these injuries he just needs to rest?
Yeah, that's the hard part, because it's tough to buy rest and to find rest. So we got to be smart with it, and obviously for him, it's extremely frustrated, especially when you're playing well and you're in the meat of the season in conference play. Those guys want to be out there. So it's unfortunate, but I know he's doing everything in his power to rehab and rest and get better. And we'll do the same. And, unfortunate that we were down Elijah for Michigan State, but I thought guys filled in at the guard spot and did a pretty good job running the show and competed.
So with Pharrell Payne, how do you keep him positive and optimistic? Or it's, hey, you might not be able to practice for 2 games, just give me what you can when you get out there? I mean, what's the approach in terms of getting him when you can?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part. As an athlete, you want your body to feel as good as possible, and when it's to a point where you don't and you can't play or you can't practice, it is that mental focus that you've got to be able to fall back on, and can't get frustrated, can't let it get into your mind as hard as that is. And then as a coaching staff, you just got to be smart with reps and getting guys rest when you can. At the same time, you still want to be able to prepare for games.
Right.
And so you're not going into games completely blind as a player.
How much in this season is it just about guys playing through injuries? Because we all know their bodies will never feel 100% like they did prior to the preseason. So when you get in the season, how do you balance, all right, you got to play through that and we got to be cautious with you?
Yeah, no, it's a tough balance. I think, a lot of it from a coaching standpoint now is you got to lean on the player and your medical staff to kind of make those decisions. I just have to be smart if they tell me he can go kind of in spots where I need him in practice. You know, what parts in practice are important, what parts can he afford to lose out. And then in the game, it's just constantly monitoring, you know, how guys are feeling. You try to do a little minutes restriction if you can until you get the full go.
Coach, now I want to talk to you about another player that you have on this team, Cam Christie, a freshman, doing some good things for you guys this year. Also him hit a little bit of a rough patch. What do you tell a freshman in a situation like this about not pressing too much and kind of just letting the game come to him?
Yeah, I think, you know, for freshmen or transfers, you know, the biggest difference when you come into league play is obviously the scouting standpoint. So if you played well in the non-conference, you're going to move up on the scouting report. Teams are going to guard you a lot different. They're going to game plan and scheme for you. They're going to know your moves. They're going to know, we all know each other's plays. So it naturally becomes harder. And so early in the conference, you got to be able to fight that. You know, you got to be able to push through and still be effective. And I think every player goes through it. And then once you find that rhythm in league play, then you're able to turn the page and to continue to progress and grow as a player.
So what's it like this year, you know, in year 3? We've talked before, and we even talked about this on the radio show as well. I'm going to plug the radio show. It's good every Tuesday on KFAN. My bosses will appreciate that. But we've come in, you know, mid-January like we are, and well, you've got 3.5 players to practice, and we're not sure that this guy's going to be able to go. We'll see. Norman Dale, my team's on the floor. There was a lot of helpless weeks, I think, right, where your hands were kind of tied. What's it like this year where it seems like everything that may or may not be ailing you seems like it's in your control and you have the guys to go out there and do it? It has to be a completely different feeling from your first couple of years.
No, it is. I mean, it's natural during the course of the year guys are going to get banged up, and that's why obviously you scale practice down as you begin to get through January and February. But from the coach's standpoint, it is nice when you know you have majority of your bodies, especially guys that are going to be in the game to play, able to practice. You're able to get those valuable reps that you have to get as a team, and then you have to get individually. I think the hardest part as a player is, you know, going into games, if you haven't had reps and you haven't gotten up shots, or you haven't gotten into a flow during practice, it's hard just to turn the light switch on during the games. And so to be able to get guys practice time and get them those valuable reps not only helps them individually, but you know, we'll pay dividends for our team.
I think you talked back in December about the exciting part, especially with your quick start in the Big Ten, is you still feel like this team can get better as you go. And you've obviously hit some injuries and hit some issues, but do you still feel that here with, you know, 6-8 weeks left in the season, that there's still a lot where you guys can continue to improve and surge towards March? Yeah, without question. You know, I think, again, it goes back to there's a lot of firsts that this team has to go through, especially in league play. And once you're able to go through those experiences, it just builds toughness as the year goes on. And then I think, you know, with depth, it normally doesn't come into play till later on in the year. Right. You know, early on, everybody's, for the most part, is healthy. So your depth kind of doesn't really factor in as much. But as you get into January and it's really getting into February and teams start to really feel it and have different stuff go on, well, that's when you want your depth to play out. And so we're hoping that happens here.
Coach, how relieved are your assistant coaches that you guys have depth this year and that they don't have to lace up the shoes at basketball practice and go running up and down the court?
I'm probably more relieved than they are because I don't have to watch it. So I think it's a win for everybody.
We had managers getting hurt last year, if I remember right. Didn't we have an ACL on the managerial staff?
We had 2 managers on crutches that had ACL surgery flanking around. So it's bad enough as a coach when you're watching players that you have rehab on the side at a high number, and then you look over and you also have your management staff on crutches rehabbing at a high number. It doesn't do a lot for
no. You can't even get the floor taped. You know, you can't even get the extra rim on the rim. You can't get the waters up. Yeah. That's not this year.
Everything is going well so far at practice, though, this year.
Yeah,
right?
Everything's been good. And, again, you have your normal injuries that come with the course of play. But we'll be able to battle through those.
Now, speaking of practice, how is practice beneficial for a guy like Mike Mitchell Jr., new to this team, still trying to find his role? How do you get everybody to mesh at practice before they go step on the court for the bright lights in the games?
Yeah, no, practice is vital for everybody, but especially your new guys, whether they're transfers or freshmen. You can't put a price tag on the amount of reps that they get within our system. Defensively, offensively, to get comfortable, and once you're comfortable, you build the confidence. And I think that's key for any player. So you're able to get those reps at a high level over and over and over to help build the confidence so that when they're playing games, it's more second nature.
And we're seeing Mitchell here against Michigan State. Now it's, I think this is against Iowa, but he had to jump into the point guard role, right? Because Elijah Hawkins was out against Michigan State. What did you see from him in that performance that you can take forward?
He did. You know, Mike did a great job. Played 40 minutes because Cam got foul trouble. So he was kind of a one-man show. And, it was that week leading up. You kind of put in a package that he's comfortable with at the one, so you're not throwing a bunch of new stuff at him. But I thought defensively he did a great job, and then offensively being able to kind of run the show and get us in our offense. It's part of what it is, and those guys come here for a reason to play, and so when that opportunity presents itself, I know a guy like Mike is ready to step up.
How important is it for a guard to be versatile and be able to wear different hats and play different positions?
I think versatility is huge. Again, versatility because it helps you play differently offensively. You have more weapons, more things to go to, more of an arsenal. But then if you do have injury, you do have foul trouble, when you have guys that can just slide over and they're not kind of a one-trick pony, it helps being able to stay true to what you want to do. You don't have to mask everything.
Right.
And so I think we try to develop that year-round. And the more versatile you are as a player, obviously the more value you bring to a team as well.
All right. Well, speaking of versatility, Dawson Garcia is that. He wears multiple hats for this Gophers men's basketball team, and we're going to talk to him on the other side of this break. Stick around for more Gopher Coaches Show.
You're watching the Gopher Coaches Show.
Yeah, we're rising up.
Welcome back to the Gopher Coaches Show. I'm Ahmad Hicks, Justin Garr, Ben Johnson, and Dawson Garcia joins the set. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, so first things, I want to start with rolling some of your highlights from last season. And I want to talk about what it was like in your first year as a Gopher. What are some challenges you think you had, and what do you think you excelled at last year?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that we faced last year was obviously just not winning as many games as we hoped for. But I think those experiences really helped build us our chemistry going into this year. And so, I'm just looking forward to the continued season.
When you look at your highlights here on the court, when that season ended, what was something where you like, you know what, I got to go to work, I got to fix this for next season?
I was really just really trying to fine-tune my whole game in general. And a big thing that I'm just continuously working on is my pace. I think that's a big thing with me. And, I think it's just a growing process even into this season.
So, Ben, to keep the trend going from year over year with Dawson, what was it like? What was kind of the exit interview process like with him? What did you challenge him with in the offseason, in the summer, and how do you think he came back? He looks big. I mean, he's wearing that shirt. It's kind of a flex. It's unbelievable. He looks bigger than a year ago. I'm glad you're in between us here. But what have you seen year to year from one of your most important players?
Yeah. No, I think it's what he talked about. It's the growth piece. He knows what he's capable of, and we know what he's capable of as far as production goes. And now it's being able to, be consistent and being able to be that guy that plays with that pace, that is able to be a three-level scorer because of your pace. And just understand the game and continue to develop and grow and work that IQ and feel.
So you go through all of that, Dawson. You go through the summer, you go through the offseason, then you get hurt, for almost a month, and you miss a stretch of games. How difficult was that for you, and what do you feel like you learned maybe about yourself or about the team in that stretch?
Yeah, it was difficult to miss some time with the injury, but at the end of the day, it's part of the game. Injuries happen, and so I was just doing my best rehabbing and anything I could help while the guys were out there playing. And I think it was good to watch them go out there and compete, and I think they did a really good job as well.
How different do you feel like the team was before you got hurt and after? Because we talked to Coach Johnson about whether it was Mike Mitchell or Elijah Hawkins, guys filling different space, guys filling different roles. Do you feel like you walked into a group when you came back that was a little different than the one that you left?
Yeah, I think naturally when guys go down, and me, for example, that was having a decent amount of the scoring load, it gives opportunity for other guys to step up. And guys really did step up, and they flourished in their role, and I think it gave them a lot of confidence, which is a good thing.
When you look at your highlights from this season right now, your averages have gone up a couple of points in your rebounds and your points, rebounds, and assists from last season. What's it like being the leader of this team this year, the go-to man when you guys need a bucket or a stop?
It's a big-time privilege, and, I'm just excited to just continue to try to win games with this group, because that's all anybody remembers anyway. So, just going out there and win as many games as possible with this group of guys.
It says culture on your shirt. What is the culture like here, Minnesota men's basketball?
The culture's growing. It's getting better and better each day. I think it's really, ever since Coach got here, it's been constant, and we've all had great guys in the locker room. And this year, I always talk about it, but this summer we did a Winners Week, and I think that really just improved our culture even more tremendously. And so I think that we're going to win games, and I think we already have won games just because of things like that.
You kind of went where I wanted to go next. We talked about Winners Week, something that came out of Winners Week in terms of the belt a couple of weeks ago. But we didn't talk, Ben, about specifically what Winners Week was all about. And obviously, Dawson mentioned he feels like it's really propelled you this season. So what was the genesis for that idea? What did you hope to get out of it, and what did you get out of it?
I think the main concept was to develop a winner's mentality, to understand everything that goes into winning. That, to me, was the next important phase of our program. And I think our guys were able to see that, right? Different challenges that we presented, whether it was individual or as a group, as a team, to be able to rise up and kind of dig deep and find out ways to win. And then once you've won, being able to win again.
Yeah.
And be able to understand, all right, here's things I need to stack on a daily basis to keep kind of that winning mantra going. And I think guys now are hopefully able to fall back on different things like that and fall back on stuff in the preseason, even fall back on some losses to understand, how we can continue to grow as a team as the season develops.
Winning, chemistry means a lot when it comes to winning. Dawson, a lot of things are changing in the NCAA landscape. Guys leaving each and every year. You got a new point guard this year in Elijah Hawkins. What's it like playing with the pass-first guy like that kind of just sets up everyone else?
It's amazing playing with Elijah. He's done a great job for us. Oftentimes he can just create something out of nothing, and I think that's a big-time feature for us. You just see in that clip he keeps his dribble alive on the baseline, and he pushes the pace on the fast break. So it's been great playing with Elijah.
To kind of piggyback off of that, we've talked about this before. If you're open, he's going to find you, right? And that's probably the same for Pharrell. It's probably the same for Braden. It's probably the same for everybody. And that has to be a good feeling to know that if you do your job and cut and screen and get open, that someone's going to be there for you on the other end.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. And even oftentimes, even if you don't even know you're open, he'll still find you. So, yeah.
Last question, Dawson, that we want to ask you before we let you go. We always ask Coach Johnson and other NCAA coaches the differences of playing and coaching in the NCAA with the NIL factor. What's it like being a player and having all that surround you, whether it's like trying to be recruited to stay in the program or trying to land extra money? How has that changed life for athletes?
Yeah, I think it's changed a decent amount just because there's a lot of other factors now naturally. But I think that if it really just comes down to keeping the main thing, it's really the same. Just because if you just have a mindset to get better each and every day with the group that you're with, I think that it really just stays the same.
Okay. All right. And I got to ask you about this. What's your thoughts on your student managers basketball game? I see they're ranked #1 for student managers across the country. Thoughts on their play?
Yeah, I don't know who they paid to get that ranking. I don't know who they paid to get that ranking.
Doesn't sound like you believe it either.
You can always kind of toy with numbers.
Paper tigers. Yeah. Feel like they haven't been tested.
Yeah, it's hats off to them. A lot of gray area with that.
Interesting.
Well, we're going to pick Coach's brain about his student managers. But, Dawson, thank you for joining the set. Good luck the rest of the season. And you guys stay tuned because more Gophers Coaches Show is returning after the break.
Welcome back to the Gopher Coaches Show.
Welcome back to the Gopher Coaches Show. Ahmad Hicks, Ben Johnson, Justin Gard. Coach, we were just talking about your student managers and their #1 ranking. You said there may be a little gray area there. They're healthy. They're back this year. The benefits of having those guys healthy this season, and your thoughts on their ranking and if they're really ballers.
Yeah, no, we're proud of them. They put in a lot of work, so I give them some grief, but it's all in fun. No, those guys are phenomenal for us. Thankless in their job every single day, care about the program, care about our guys, do all the little stuff that never gets the attention. And so it's kind of cool to see them take pride in this and, hopefully set the tone the night before games that we play. But they definitely put the time in. A lot of those guys are involved in practice, so they're able to see that carry over. We've had some managers that have done a great job with their body and have gotten into really good shape.
Wow.
And so I think all that stuff is really good for them. And so to build confidence whether it's working with our team or playing basketball against other Big Ten opponents, you love to see it.
How serious do they take it?
Oh,
They
serious.
take it serious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say on the women's side, typically game day breakfast, the managers are talking about the night before a game, like who scored, who missed whom, like if there was bad blood between the other team. Like
That's funny.
That's their kind. And then, like Ben said, they're out in the middle of a snowstorm, loading bags or doing whatever.
crazy.
I mean, it is the cool part. But do you remember that when you were a player? Like, I feel like it's a new phenomenon, the student manager game.
So it kind of blew up because they have this tournament now, which back in the day they would still keep score, but I don't think they had a tournament when I was playing. But it doesn't change. Those guys still take pride in what they do. And again, it's like when you're involved in practice and you do things in practice, now you can kind of carry it over and do it against other managers and other teams. I think they take a lot of pride in that, and it's funny to talk about. Our guys love it. It builds good camaraderie, but I just think it's good because those guys work so hard.
So we had a couple of court storms this week in men's and women's basketball, which means inevitably we had a couple issues with court storms. Matt Painter not happy with some stuff in Nebraska. Caitlin Clark got run over in Ohio State. What's the Ben Johnson philosophy on court storming? Do we need it? Should it be allowed? Do we have to make sure the other team gets off? What do we think?
Oh, it's a hard call because sometimes if it's not as organized, it can be a free for all. And so I think like any coach, whether you're the home coach or the visiting coach, whether you're the winning coach or the losing coach, you just want all players to be protected, all staff to be protected. And I think from the head coach's standpoint, the worst thing you fear is fan-student altercation.
Right.
Obviously you don't want anybody to get hurt and get hit like it happened, unfortunately, at Ohio State. But I also worry about the altercation part, where now you've got a fan base that's juiced up and, it's a heightened moment. So you just hope that security does their job and they're able to kind of think ahead and get stuff organized and be together. And then I know some coaches have done a good job of really allowing their team to exit the floor early.
All right.
If there's a break in the play. So.
Well, we hope that when you guys beat somebody big in the upcoming games,
when you storm the court against Wisconsin.
Yes, storm the court.
Do it
be
responsibly.
Safe. Be responsible.
Let the Badgers get off the floor.
Up next for the Gophers, a border battle versus Wisconsin. That'll do it for our Coaches Show with Ben Johnson, Justin Gard, Ahmad Hicks. We'll see you all next week.